Hi everyone and welcome to Training for Life Redeemed. I'm your host Dan. As always, I'm joined by my father David Jackson. Today we're going to continue our series as we look through the book of Matthew. We're up to Matthew chapter 8, Dad. And now Matthew chapter 8 seems to have a theme, at least for the first half of it, of people who are unclean being healed by Jesus. We have there's a Gentile in here. Peter's mother has a fever. There's, I think, a man with leprosy as well. And Jesus is going to touch these people, well, except for the centurion's child. He's not going to touch this slave child. He's going to actually be amazed at the guy's faith. Why is this theme here? What's the point Jesus is making with these unclean healings?
It's great fun. We've just gone through COVID. We've had a whole bunch of people out in the street demonstrating about COVID restrictions and stuff. And there's part of me that would like to walk them back into the book of Leviticus and give them a little sample of what God does when people are sick, infectious, when their health can be transferred to other people, and leprosy is your classic example. So leprosy is highly contagious, and skin diseases, you don't want to touch all that stuff. So if you're in the old covenant and God's trying to teach you this concept that sin does damage to your body, sin is infectious, we just inherit all of this stuff. So you set up these quarantine fences, and for the most extreme was leprosy. So if you're a leper, you can't live with people, you've got to stay out of town. If you want to go anywhere, you've got to cover your face. We use face masks, they use their hand. And then you've got to yell at people and say, unclean, unclean, get out of the way. So it's a terrible lifestyle. And this guy comes up to Jesus and he doesn't ask to be healed, he asks to be cleansed, which means get rid of this uncleanness so I can go and socialise with people again. Let me back in town. Let me visit my wife, So, and then Jesus does this ridiculous thing. He walks over and he touches the leper. And the leper is healed. And you go, everybody's cringing at the thought of him touching the leper. And then the leper's healed. And you go, what just happened? Just broke every mould. And I use the line, Jesus's wholeness, his holiness, is more infectious than sin and death. So, and he demonstrates that over and over again.
He definitely does it in other miracles as well, when he spits on people's tongues and in their ears and makes mud and touches lots of people who are disabled or are sick, including Peter's mother-in-law. Is going to heal her as well of her fever.
Yeah.
And I like this concept of Jesus' purity, his holiness, his health, his beauty, his perfection. Is what's contagious. It actually fixes all of the bad rather than the bad stuff, the rottenness being contagious.
I use the example: you don't send a sick kid to school to catch good health from the other kids, but with Jesus, that's how it works.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you take the rotten bit of fruit out of the bowl.
You don't put...
Yeah. But we're then going to shift over to this calming of the storm, I think. Yes.
Well, don't forget the centurion.
Well, isn't he part of the unclean stuff?
He is, but you can't... I like the idea, you've got an unclean centurion. He's unclean because he's a Roman. Not because he's got leprosy.
Yeah.
He's a Gentile. So you're not allowed in the house of a Gentile. And Jesus says, I'll come to your house. And the Gentile says, oh, no, I'm unclean. So he's owning this whole thing. For a Roman army of occupation officer to say to a Jew, I'm not worthy for you to come into my house because I'm unclean, would be staggering. And Jesus just speaks a word and this little child slave is healed. And you go, yeah.
Well, the centurion understands too that if you give an order, it gets carried out.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, an order to heal a child, and he recognises Jesus has that authority. That's pretty staggering.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be present in order
Yeah.
to fix things. Okay, so now we're moving to this
Let's go to
storm.
This storm.
So this passage, Dad, talks about the disciples are on the Sea of Galilee, and most people's translations are going to say a storm comes up, and it's they're all scared and all the rest of it, and Jesus calms the storm and says, you have little faith. Can you firstly correct the bit that's wrong in that story, and then explain the significance of it?
Okay, so the word that's used, that we translate storm, is the word for an earthquake. And it just so happens that the Lake of Galilee, the Jordan River, the Dead Sea, that's all part of the Great Rift Valley. And the Great Rift Valley is where two tectonic plates come together, and they've pulled apart so that the middle drops down, and this is the lowest point on planet Earth, down at the Dead Sea. So we're up here at the Lake of Galilee, and the text says in Greek that there was an earthquake. And you picture being in a fishing boat on a lake when there's an earthquake.
Yeah.
And, I went and had a look at the Geological Survey people, and they say that when there is an earthquake, you also get atmospheric stuff happening. So this is not your usual fisherman in a boat out on a lake when there's a thunderstorm. This is much bigger than that. So you think of the tsunami effect of an earthquake, and that's why these guys are terrified.
Yeah, you take your tsunami effect that happens in an ocean
and put it
in a lake.
Yeah,
a really
it's like
small lake.
Putting it in Sydney Harbour, that would be terrifying, and it's at night. So suddenly you've got wind, and you've got this earthquake happening, and you've got waves that are way bigger than normal, and Jesus sleeps through the whole thing.
And then they arrive on the other side of the lake, and Jesus is going to heal another very unclean person who's hanging out, cutting himself.
We're in Gentile territory.
Yeah.
So we've actually, never mind the centurion, I won't go in your house. We're going to go over to Gaulanitas, which is Gentile country where they're farming pigs, and you're at the side of the lake where there's caves and tombs, so you're near a cemetery. I mean, how more unclean can we get?
Yeah. Like add a demon-possessed man. That's
yeah, just have some naked guy running around screaming at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, follow Jesus. It gets interesting. And I just love the irony of it. You speak the word, get lost, and the demons go out, jump in the pigs, and you think the reason they wanted Jesus to send them away, not send us into the abyss, don't send us into final judgment. And Jesus just calmly says, off you go. You can go and join the pigs. And of course the pigs run straight down, jump into the lake and drown, and you're in the abyss. And the whole place is terrified. So, there's fear because he has the authority to speak these words. He crosses these unclean boundaries, and he just destroyed your pig farm.
Yeah. Yeah, but then the Gentiles who come don't want anything to do with him. They come and they see the guy, he's all good, and they just say, yeah, can you leave, please?
Isn't it interesting when Jesus comes along and he takes something that is so just violates everything and smashes life, and he fixes it, and the response is go away. I think that speaks vast amounts about the nature of Satan's rule over people. We would rather be broken, dysfunctional, smashed to pieces, sick and dying, than have Jesus interfere with our lifestyle. It's crazy, but that's what we're dealing with.
Well, Dad, that does bring us to the end of chapter 8, which is the end of this episode, which is episode 67.
Must be 67, somewhere around there.
Hopefully it's 67. So if you would like to grab the study notes for this episode, please head over to trainingforliferedeemed.com/67. If you enjoyed the episode, we would love it if you could leave us a review And make sure you hit the subscribe button and come back and join us next week. We're going to continue working our way through Matthew. We're up to Matthew 9 next week, and I'm looking forward to finding out what I'm going to learn from Jesus healing paralytics and a few other things.